Hello and welcome to Freedom Watch, your daily dose of raw liberty, streaming online at foxnews.com/Freedom Watch. I'm Judge Andrew Napolitano here, defending freedom, defending your natural rights, and defending your right to have a government that stays within the confines of the Constitution. A January Gallup poll released recently says nearly 20% of the U.S. workforce is underemployed. In other words, 30 million are either jobless or only work part-time. Meanwhile, if you work for the federal government, you're making 45% more than those doing similar work in the private sector. The Bureau of Labor Statistics released a report this week that shows almost 15 million Americans are out of work. But if you work for the ever-expanding government that likes taxes, welfare, and war, you are enjoying salary increases, nice pensions, and a slew of other benefits courtesy of the taxpayers. Average Americans are suffering in record numbers. The federal government is growing at a record rate. It should be the opposite. And until that changes, your rights, your freedoms, and your liberty are all at stake. Joining me here in studio is Peter Schiff, president of Euro-Pacific Capital and a candidate for the Republican nomination for the United States Senate in the state of Connecticut. Peter, welcome here.
Thanks for having me.
So, yesterday, with the help of 5 Republicans in the Senate, the Senate voted to give the president $15 billion to waste on jobs. How bad is this?
Well,
when will the government learn?
Well, I think the plan is actually pretty bad. It's not really going to create any jobs. What I do think it's going to do is create an incentive for employers of kind of lower skilled, marginal employees to fire them so they can hire new people and get the tax credit. But what's going to happen is the government's going to probably claim credit for the new jobs that are created to claim the credit, but of course they're not going to take responsibility for the people who get fired to make room for those people.
Walk me through this. Most small businesses are S corporations, meaning they don't pay taxes. The owner of the business pays the tax. So if the business owes no taxes, of what value is a tax credit to that business? Question number one. Number two, how can the government just say, we want you to hire more people, we want you to hire more people, when they may not have a need for more people?
Well, the main credit is if you hire somebody, for the first year, you don't have to pay, I think, your 6% of their Social Security tax. But the reality is, so what that means is, so instead of hiring somebody and paying them $40,000 a year, maybe I only have to pay them $39,000, $38,500. I doubt that's going to make a difference. I mean, if I'm not hiring them at 40, I mean, if I could make it work at 38.5, I'm sure I would have already found a guy willing to cut his pay on his own to get a job. It's only for 1 year. It's not going to make a difference. The only way it makes a difference is if I've got some minimum wage workers and I can fire them and quickly hire another minimum wage worker where it doesn't take me long to train them. Then I can actually get a benefit because I can have a lower payroll. And that's all it's going to do is increase turnover in minimum wage jobs. It's not going to create any real jobs.
If you were already in the Senate, a position for which you're running in Connecticut, I'm sure you would have voted against the $15 billion yesterday. But what would you have said to others when they said to you, oh, but Senator Schiff, we have to do something for our constituents?
Well, what we can do for our constituents...
By the way, did you like the way that sounded, yeah, Senator Schiff?
Is we have to stop taxing them, stop regulating them. If you want to create jobs, then remove all the barriers that have been placed in the way of entrepreneurs to grow and stop spending so much money. The government is growing like a cancer, and it's bleeding the nation dry. The economy is weak because the government is so big. I mean, look at the graphics you showed on how much they're earning. You know, actually, if you count all their benefits, the average government worker is earning twice the average private sector worker. I mean, what happened to the contest of civil servant? The servants are supposed to earn less than we do, and at one time they did.
And to make matters worse, the government doesn't produce anything. It just consumes. I mean, the government doesn't produce a product. The government doesn't produce wealth. It just takes wealth and destroys it.
But worse than that, all those jobs make all the private sector jobs even less efficient. So they don't produce anything, and they cause the rest of us to produce less. And so we all have to live with a smaller pie.
What will it take to get the governing class to understand that? I mean, example, when Scott Brown was elected in your neighboring state in Massachusetts, I mean, free market people, conservatives, libertarians, Republicans rejoiced. We have our 51st vote. We can stop the White House. And then the second vote that he casts is in favor of ending debate and thus going forward with and voting in favor of this $15 billion jobs boondoggle.
I mean, the problem is, you know, in a way, people got suckered. I mean, sure, is he better than having, Ted Kennedy there or having, Coakley
Martha
there?
Coakley.
Yeah, but, let's face it. I mean, the guy's a rhino. I mean, we got plenty of Republicans just like him that have been the problem for a long time. So what we need to, find is candidates like me who really represent a clear difference, who have a history and an ideology so that you know what you get. I mean, if I get to the United States Senate, you know that I'm never going to vote for these government jobs bills. We don't create jobs by passing bills. We destroy jobs by passing bills. We only create jobs by repealing the regulations and the spending that are destroying them right now.
But do you think that the governing class will ever come to understand that? Or you think that they will be seduced like Scott Brown? And I don't mean to pick on him, because there were other Republicans and all Democrats who voted for this monstrosity. Do you think that they will be seduced by the desire to say to their constituents, well, look what I did for you. I got $15 billion, and a good chunk of that is coming back to Massachusetts.
I hope not. That's why I'm running. I want to go to Washington and convince these guys to do the opposite of that they have to stop thinking about their own political futures and what helps get them reelected and actually put the country's interests first and do what's right. And hopefully, based on my track record and the things that I've said and done in the past, I can convince these guys that I know what's right. And the people that they're listening to, the Tim Geithners, the Ben Bernackes, they're wrong.
Last week, about 10,000 people who call themselves conservatives gathered in Washington, D.C. at this thing called CPAC, Conservative Political Action Conference. I was there for a day. Ron Paul was there and spoke to many people. As you know, I was privileged to share one or two of the stages with Congressman Paul, denying that he has made up his mind about whether or not he's going to run for president, and I believe him. Mitt Romney was there virtually to announce his candidacy for president. Yet, when a straw poll was taken, Ron Paul gets 32% of the vote and Mitt Romney gets 22%. Is there a change going on? Are the free market, fidelity to the Constitution, natural rights arguments finally starting to resonate with people who call themselves conservatives or Republicans or independents or Tea Partiers?
I think so. I've met a lot of these Tea Partiers now that I'm running in Connecticut, and, that's how they think. And I think, when I joined the Ron Paul campaign in 2008 as an economic advisor, it was disappointing that his candidacy didn't generate more interest. But look at the interest it's generating now. People are starting to wake up to the things that he was saying in 2008 about the economy, and the fact that he can go to CPAC and get a third of the people to support him. It shows that the conservatives are moving more towards the libertarian wing, and that's exactly what we need to do.
Even a year and a half ago, when you and I first started chatting like this, who would have predicted that the House of Representatives would pass a bill? I know it's attached to a lot of garbage that you and Congressman Paul and I don't like, but pass a bill that includes a full-fledged audit of that monster, the Federal Reserve.
I know, and the fact that Ron Paul would end up partnering up with Alan Grayson on the Democratic side to actually get the thing done. But the problem is they might kill it in the Senate.
How do people find out about you and your campaign for the Republican nomination for the U.S. Senate in Connecticut?
Well, they can find out. I mean, go to my website, shiftforsenate.com. In fact, we're going to be rolling out an even newer website relatively soon. My advertising campaign is going to be starting. There's going to be a televised debate, I think, on March 2nd with the other two candidates. So I hope that'll be, good for my campaign. A lot of people in Connecticut don't know that I'm there, but we can certainly use your support. We got a lot of volunteers. We can use more. We can use more donations. I'm finally going to start spending a lot more of that money I've raised on these TV commercials and direct mail pieces. So the more money I get, the more times I can afford to run the spots.
Peter Schiff, good luck to you. It's always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us on
sir.
Freedom Watch.